our amazing Blanca Isabella, who is one of our awesome first-gen college students from LA pursuing degrees in theater and arts education. Cool. She is also part of the Investing Youth campaign, and we are grateful to see her perform her piece called A Letter to the Divided Country Girl.
Thank you, Michelle. Hi, everyone. So I'm performing a piece that I wrote. You are always the only one in the room. Okay, maybe two. Three is a crowd. Three is, wow, there's so many of you. Three will get you confused with people that look nothing like you. In classrooms, you get called names that don't belong to you. You do your best not to ignore such casual erasure. You know that your silence will be taken as validation, and you are always affirmative. You're an affirmative action figure. You, fantastic first diverse student enrollee. You, first generation college, first one to make it out of your city. You marvel at the sounds of the TV, speaking to the American people. Funny how no one comes right out and says you people anymore. It's all code words like gangster or diversity initiative. You, diversity all by yourself. You contain multitudes, and yet you are contained, confined everywhere you go, as if someone is watching you and isn't there. Isn't that the whole point of this tongue you inherited? A control system set since colonialism, a language that will get you dirty looks from strangers as you eat at a restaurant. If only they knew that that tongue came from their ancestors forcing it upon us, but I suppose they do. The need to control runs in their veins, causing my people's blood to run loose, painting a path for what my community has always held as truth. In order to get anywhere, be twice as good, be twice as smart, work twice as hard, as if anyone else's worth is worth measuring yours against. You always remember to measure your looks, your volume, your tone over email. You're always sorry. You don't even know why. You apologize to no one in particular just for being around and in your body at the same time. They will tell you you are the issue. You're loud. Why are you always so angry? You're fiery and you talk too much. Talk better. Don't speak that I don't understand. You're really smart for someone like you. You're not from here. You're not from there. You divided country girl. You are enough. You are brilliant. You are beautiful. You are everything. The first teacher who ever really saw you says, and every once in a while you believe it. So say it. An ode to the way we make survival and art. Say, I am a young brown girl and my joy is stainless. Say, I exist in excess of my anguish. Say, my existence is a very form of resistance. I may speak the language that does not belong to me, but it was reclaimed, used by the ones who raised me. Mujeres de maíz, women of corn, making tamales, tortillas, the things that helped me grow, growing from the same soil that supported my ancestors, the soils that knows the hands of my community too well. So the next time you feel like a divided country girl, say to them, you are the one who placed the divide. This land was and will always be mine. Say I am from here and there, and I will go places you have never been. Say my people are not target practice, not a bullseye with rhythm, not something that can be caged. Say this breath is no illegal substance to be locked away. So say it. Guardado, Gonzalez, Salgado, Anastasio, Rosa, Rojas, the names not uttered because the reporter couldn't roll them out. Say to them, these names make the mouth a musician that plays for justice. So say it when they try to turn your LA school into a prison. May your voice rattle the pipelines, breaking the chains. Say denying to teach me my history is irrelevant to me. It lives within me. In me are Rodriguez, Alfaro, Lopez, Valdez, and Cisneros, the authors that offer a glimpse of what heaven is. Say we fly like butterflies that flutter its wings dignified, even when the strangers try to make our beauty a burden. Say no one will make my beauty a burden. Say no. Say The appropriation train stops here, say. My people are not cheap labor, say. My neighborhood is not a new market for you to gentrify like a vulture. Say, love me like you love my culture. Say, this is the last time you call me out of my name. The last time you call me anything other than what I have claimed for myself, what I inherited. Yes, we honor the dead, praise what they left behind. Because of them, no one will make us sorry for being alive. My people stay more vibrant than life. They always have. Say, always have. Say, always will. Thank you, everyone.
Yet another, I can't even begin to describe, wonderful, amazing, beautiful masterpiece. Thank you so much, Blanca. Those words that you say hold so much truth. They were, I can't even begin to explain. It was really beautiful. Thank you. So we just finished watching two powerful performances about youth power and not being afraid of owning our experiences and identity, because you guys are all experts of your own experience and you are never too young to advocate for what's right. And now that we are all inspired, let's project that energy into what we are here for today. Today, we are here to discuss the needs and demands that youth across Los Angeles City have and how that could be reflected in the Youth Development Department. Because, just like my youth organizers say, no more conversations about us without us. So let's create a blueprint. So with that, I will be passing the mic over to both the Cassandras, who will be giving us a quick overview of how other cities have already begun to establish or have already established a youth development department, and a breakdown on how a youth development department in Los Angeles could become a reality. After the overview, we will then be breaking off into little small groups you all signed up for, and we'll continue the conversation and create the Youth Development Department blueprint youth want to see in Los Angeles. Let's get into it. Take it away, Cassandra.
Perfect. Thank you for that beautiful intro. And yes, as soon as we get the slides working, Lucy, please can we go on live? And I only say that because, yeah, before we are even able to really get into the conversation and address today's topic, which is addressing youth investment in the city valley, I think it's quite important that we start off with the basics. We got to break down and see how young folks are represented in the city and how we're currently doing. What is the state of youth in the city of LA, right? And just to see where we are all at collectively, we wanted to begin the slideshow with a collective poll. And that's where I'm asking Lucy to go live with Canva slides.
Cassandra, can you direct her on how to do that, please?
Yeah, so you'll have to share the slides directly from the Canva link that Michelle sent over to you. And when you go over to present on the upper right-hand corner, it's gonna give you a live option.
Okay, y'all give me one quick second.
That is all good. Meanwhile, we work on that, right? While one of the poll questions, and right now, because we don't have the live working, let's stick to our community agreements and utilize the chat box. So the first question is, how many youth do you think live in the city of LA? And I'm calling everyone, all 110 participants in the Zoom call. How many young people do you think live in the city of LA? Let me open up my chat. I don't see numbers coming in, but 800,000, that's a huge number, Emmanuel. But let's get a couple more. We have 100 folks on the call. 2 million, 1,900,000, 1.3 million, I'm guessing, 700 million, 40 million. That's a lot of folks. All right. Cool. Perfect. Next question. How would you describe youth? Give me one word, a phrase. How would you describe youth in the city of LA, our city? Powerful. I agree, Astrid. Future, unity, beautiful, ambitious. I consider myself ambitious for sure. Passionate, intrigued, groundbreaking, innovative, facts. All right, going on to the third question. Now we get down to like the topic of today, right? Give me a whole number. How much do you think the city invests in youth development annually? Give me that number. How many do you think it is? What's the budget for youth investment in the city of LA? $100. I think that's a powerful statement. $10. Not a lot for sure. 75 per youth. More than 4 million, not enough. $6,000, $5,000. All right. So that question was hinting at the overall budget for youth investment, right? Now we get into like the nitty-gritty of it. Now I asked you for the whole number. Now I'm asking for folks, how much do you think that translates per young person in our city? So people were saying 10 million for youth investment, right? But how much is that per individual? 50 cents, 10 cents, 74, $25, 25 cents, 78 per youth, $2, $1.75. Good guesses, good guesses. But yeah, Lucy, you could go ahead and like, skip the live. We just pretty much wanted to have a poll to really engage folks. But now let's just get into it. So feel free to just share the regular slides and start with slide 7. And then now we're gonna get into it. I think I'm gonna have to turn off my camera because it's gonna get choppy. But I'm still here, y'all. I am still here. Next slide. Perfect. That one. So yeah, our team, the youth advisory board, before we could start discussing on like how we can address the lack of investment, it's pretty important to really develop that picture, right? Before we get into this conversation, definitely before I forget, right, I want to preface that all these stats, all the information that you're about to learn from the next couple of slides was pulled from the Blueprint for Youth Development Los Angeles. It was a report written by one of our coalition members over there at the Advancement Project. So shout out to Assad. Assad was our data person, and they transitioned out. But yeah, if one of my youth organizers can link the report in the chat, you could go ahead and reference that report for future reference, right? So yeah, as I was saying, before we're able to discuss youth development in any way, we gotta paint the picture. We need folks to really understand why the current lack of investment is a pressing issue for our city. And that's because youth in our city, a young person is an individual between the ages of 10 to 24. And LA City is home to over 800,000 young folks. That's a lot of people. And the fact that we are lacking investment means that 800,000 isn't just a number, it represents individuals, it represents the future. And we love to praise that youth are the future, but we really do need to address the lack of support that we have. Given that the population is so big, 800,000, we gotta touch on like the intertwined demographics that over 800,000 incorporates. And that's 81% of the 800,000 are youth of color. 200,000 young people are living below the poverty line. 3,000 young folks are experiencing homelessness. 68,000 are disconnected, and a disconnected youth is a young person who is not enrolled in school, neither high school, neither college, and isn't in the workforce. And based on these stats, which was based off the fiscal year of 2017 and 2018, we saw that there were 31,000 youth arrests. I wanted to begin with the poll to really see where we thought young people were at in our city, but based on these stats, how are we feeling? Share your thoughts in the chat. It's quite a shocker. I remember when I first read the report, when I first read the report, it was kind of like a slap in the face for me. It was a wake-up call, which is why I joined the Invest in Youth Coalition. But yeah, and as a young person, considering the population, it's so big and it's so diverse, right? We would think that the city of LA would have a solid strategy to really a solid strategy or a solid structure to support young people, but we're not there yet. And that's kind of why we brought everyone together today to really have that conversation and really include young people into a report that will then begin to serve young people. So do me a favor, Lucy, switch slides. Yeah, so now we get into like the current state of youth investment and how the city of LA currently structures quote unquote positive youth development programs. Give me 1 second. So yeah, based off the fiscal year 2017-2018, Los Angeles invested about $60.3 million in positive youth development. It seems like a large chunk of money, right? But when you break it down, and thanks to our partners at the Investment Project, they did that. And it was quite hard to break it down because the fact that these $60 million are scattered amongst different departments within the city, there isn't any efficient way to really see how effective these are. So breaking it down, it comes down to that then our city invests about $78 per individual per head. And some people were saying 10 cents. It's not that low, but others were saying in the hundreds, and it's not that high either. So yeah, right now, the city of LA spends about 60 million, and as you can see in this chart, those 60 million are then given to different departments. So we have there is GRID, Gang Reduction and Youth Development, which is housed in the mayor's office. That's one of our huge youth development programs, right? Many young people receive resources from GRID. And GRID does cool things, right? But the fact that it's not inclusive, and I'll just share my personal insight, right? GRID, for young people to receive resources on GRID, they need to have certain deficits checked off. And I think that's quite unacceptable. The fact that we are only allowing resources to young people because they fit some sort of box that the city wants to put us in. And that's not quite cool, right? But I look at this chart and really see the fact that how scattered the 60.3 million are. And we wanted to show you this chart, and you could see and read more in depth in the Investment Project, but we wanted to show you this chart because, next slide, Lucy. Right now, the current structure or lack thereof for youth investment, it's not positive, you all. It's not coordinated, and these resources and programs offered are not intentional. The many resources offered by departments are, I want to say, are of convenience to those departments. They really aren't resources that young people want to partake in, nor because there is no coordination between those departments, they're not accessible to a lot of folks. They're not accessible to young people. And that's kind of what we wanted to highlight today. Next slide, Lucy. And key things, once again, the 60.3 million, right? It seems like a large chunk of money for folks, but in reality, the fact that there is no structure to it really highlights that right now the city doesn't have a clear strategy for youth development. The fact that the funds are scattered means that there's a lack of infrastructure, and there really isn't a way to hold these resources accountable. When I say accountable, I mean that there's really no way to measure the effectiveness of the metrics that these departments are really offering to folks, right? And the fact that the city, the investment, the youth investment in the city isn't coordinated with LAUSD, it isn't coordinated with the county, and it isn't it isn't coordinated with other departments in the city means that the programs, like, it's not accessible to young folks, right? I hope you're seeing what I'm trying to get at here. And the fact that youth development in the city there isn't no clear strategy, and it isn't structured right, is exactly why the Invest in Youth Coalition came about. So if you go to the next slide. Yeah, so when we realized this, right, when we partnered with Investment Project and released that report, this is kind of why the Invest in Youth campaign came about. And this is why we kind of began the work, and how in the Invest in Youth campaign really calls for the establishment of a standalone youth development department in the city. And what we really want to highlight is that we need this department to equitably and holistically serve young people because of the population that Alley City does serve, right? So continue to the next slide, please. And real quick, just information on the Invest in Youth campaign started back in 2014. But one of the major wins I did want to highlight, and we'll be linking this timeline in the chat so you're able to see it, is the fact that back in 2019, we did pass the motion with Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez's support and established the Executive Youth Development Task Force. And go next slide, please. And what is so major about this task force is that the task force is an appointed body of experts in youth development, and their entire task, they've been meeting since this May, is to create a blueprint that will be presented to the council as a recommendation. But what's so transformative about the work that we're trying to do in this campaign is that we want direct youth input in this blueprint, and this is why we're calling all of you tonight to really join us in this conversation about what do young folks want to see in the city, what type of programs do they want to partake in, and also touch on access and outreach, like how do young folks want to be outreached to, and we'll get into that conversation in the breakout rooms, of course. But to continue, right, overall, next slide, Lucy, my bad. Overall, the Invest in Youth campaign, all organizations working together, the Youth Advisory Board and the task force, right? What we're calling for, and I ask that all the council members and their staffers attended take notes on this slide. What we're truly calling for in this space is increased youth funding. We know that $78 is not enough, right? We want centralization of services with coordination and vision for youth. So then we can then measure the outcome areas, right? Measure the metrics often and see how effective they are. Because if we aren't measuring, right? If we aren't measuring, then we don't really know how intentional these programs are. And throwing away 60.3 million, it just doesn't seem right? And also, youth decision-making power. We want you to be given a seat at the table. It makes no sense that we create a department for young people, but we really aren't including young people in these conversations, because best believe a young person living in today's age experience different scenarios overall from someone growing up 20 years back. Yes, it's sometimes the things overlap, but it's different, right? And overall, decreasing the criminalization of young people. The positive youth development and really having this youth development department is also a discussion of reimagining public safety, giving young people alternative safe spaces, really giving them the support and resources to discover their own potential, because as young people, we don't all have the same vision of success. And we need to stop throwing academia down young people's throats, because academia isn't for everyone. And I know that. And ultimately, youth say in the budget. We want a youth development department that serves young people for the sole basis of being young and needing support. We got to stop labeling and putting youth in boxes, right? We got to uplift youth narratives and really incorporate us young folks into this department. Um, and yeah, this is where I'm gonna pass it over to my colleague Cassandra, because what we're calling for may seem like a huge action, right? But today we're gonna learn that this work is already being implemented in other major cities, and us calling for our representatives to represent us, their constituents, is doing the bare minimum. And yeah, take it away, Cassandra.
Exactly, highlighting what Cassandra said, perfectly stated. We're calling for investment in young people. We need that investment. And I want to share youth survey results. So early back in the mid-September, we asked young people from across the state of Los Angeles, what do you need investment in? What as a young person, what do you need to be successful? What do you need to thrive? And we had a total of 500 responses up to date of young people. And a lot of them were not part of city-funded programs. Asking them in a separate question, why are you not part of the city-funded programs? They're not able to access them because either they live too far, they don't qualify after answering those questions like Cassandra mentioned, or sometimes, they aren't available for their age ranges. So we asked, if you did have access to all of these resources, what would your department include? What would you talk about? And these are just a few that we're highlighting. We asked about educational support, leadership development, workforce, arts and culture, and many other questions, but these are the things that we want to highlight because they are the programming priorities and where young people want to feel empowered. So if we're looking at educational support, our young people just really want college and career counseling. Education isn't for everyone, but for those who do want to, in the near future, look for a program, a GED, they want to know where to find that. They want to be able to go to one place and be like, hey, what can I do to get my degree? What can I do to support myself as a young person? Free academic tutoring. Tutoring isn't available for a lot of our young people. It's something that they really did highlight. So we want to make sure that that's available, whether it's online, especially during the pandemic. A lot of our young people, they didn't have access to technology. They didn't know how to complete their homework. So access to this free tutoring online and in person would be a great thing to do. And support for first generation students. Not all of us know how to navigate the college system. I know for sure as a first gen student that I didn't know how to begin applying or that I even needed to pay for college applications. So having that would be really helpful to us, and having mentoring, someone who's there and who went, has more experience and says, hey, you know what, I can support you in this way. I can help you. Leadership development, how to influence city policy. We want to be able to look at city policy and be like, hey, you know what, that isn't working for me. I need the city to prioritize our young people. I need you to include this in the policy. Social justice education, really learning about movements that we as young people lead, being able to, express all of our needs and being able to develop community projects, because sometimes we want to do something in our community. We just don't know how to do that, or there's no availability to actually make that thing happen. So we want to be able to feel empowered in that space. And also the city budget and decision making. We want to be able to have power within the city and even give our own recommendations for city budget. Some of these meetings that are held, they aren't accessible to all our young people because we are in school. So finding a way for us as young people to be able to participate in those meetings and to have a say in what goes on within the budget itself. When we're talking about workforce, financial literacy, career readiness, again, paid internship opportunities, because some internships, they say, hey, you know what, I can't pay you. You learn from experience. But hey, experience isn't going to pay my bills. Experience isn't going to, help me support my family. I need to be able to pay for the skills that I'm bringing to your services. We're young, but that doesn't mean that we don't know certain things, that we aren't able to bring things into a space. And having equitable access to those work opportunities, making sure that all our young people are able to be have work and any type of jobs within any industry. And then arts and cultural, really being able to have cultural awareness and practices and really owning our own histories and being able to have that training in creative industries. LA has the film industry, how come we are not including many young people in that space? Multimedia and graffiti art, stopping the criminalization of those types of arts simply because, you know, they're not seen as the standard stereotypical type of art, having a say in that type of work and anything that is created when it comes to art, and having equitable access to music education. Some young people, they were saying within the survey, you know, hey, music classes, they cost a lot of money. I don't have access to that. Hey, I have to take like 3 buses to go to my saxophone classes. I need to be able to, you know, have a space where I'm able to feel whole and where I'm able to have all the development that I need, which, Lucy, if you skip to the next slide, it's really important because, as we were saying, LA right now, for those programs that our youth are targeting, that they need, that they want, $75 per young person doesn't necessarily cover that. There's other cities who spend way more. And when I'm looking at it, $75 for me, I would say that's not even enough to buy a Disneyland ticket. I don't know about you all. Prices are really high for Disneyland. And a pair of Jordans, probably any type of shoe, you're going to go to the store and that's not even going to be $75. So we don't really see that as fair, which is why we highlight and compare it to other cities who do invest more in their young people, who do realize that, hey, we need to have one single department, one structure that can target and even work for their needs. I'm seeing in the chat, like not even a week worth of groceries. It isn't really. And looking at San Francisco, they're spending about, you know, 1,900 per young person this year, 2017, 2018, but this is still pretty much accurate. You know, New York spending $541 per young people. And this really shows that it isn't impossible. It's certainly doable, like Sandra was saying, to invest in our young people in this certain way through a department. Lucy, can you switch to the next slide? So looking at New York, you know, we talked a little bit about LA demands and what we want to see in a department, what we as young people need. So let's compare it to New York, who does have a department for youth development programs. And these are a few of the things that they have identified, well, not necessarily the department itself, but their young people have identified. Similar to us in LA, we need after school programming. They have school-based community centers, mentoring, engagement, drop-in centers, crisis shelters, outreach, referral services, empowerment programs, hotlines, budgeting processes, and free reduced student cost Metro cards, which we know here in LA, the Metro is pretty expensive if we're trying to get from school to school or for class to class. And the ones I do want to highlight are the ones in red. So these spaces are where young people are really involved and heavily, their insight is really important when talking about those drop-in centers and crisis shelters, because, you know, they're like, hey, you know, if I'm going through something, I want to be having a space where I'm able to go in and just say, I need somewhere to stay. You know, my family home is too toxic. I need that help. You know, street outreach. How do youth want to be outreached to? What programs does the city need? You know, how can we provide for that? In a hotline and web-based resources, there's youth there who are helping within those hotline and web-based services, youth helping youth, and that's all we're all about, you know. And they're able to participate in those budgeting processes, which is similar to what we want in LA. So, you know, it definitely is doable if other cities are doing it. You know, LA, we can do better, and we can do similar things, you know, not necessarily copying New York, but saying, hey, if they did it, so can we. And then can we switch to the next slide? Because I also want to highlight San Francisco, who we're saying that does have opportunities for youth involvement. One thing that we do want to highlight, apart from all these programs that we're seeing here, and this doesn't even cover all of them, it's just the ones that we think are really important within their department itself, is that they have collaborative partnerships within the city. So not only are they working with youth, but they're also working with youth serving organizations, CBOs, if you ever see that in a, you know, an acronym, community-based organizations, helping to realize, you know what, how can we coordinate with each other to make sure that a young person is being invested in, and to make sure that, hey, the services you're providing, you know, if I ever need something, I coordinate with your department, I coordinate with your office, and we're like, okay, let's not push this person around from department to department, from office to office, to at the end say, hey, you're not getting an investment. No, they say, you know what, this young person goes there, that's it, you're gonna get this help, this is where you can go, easy peasy, you're getting the help, right? And again, the ones highlighted in red, that's heavily involved with young people. So you have a youth commission with legislative comments and an advisory board, similar to our youth advisory board, just official there in their city within their department. civic engagement initiatives where they're able to support within the city policies. They're able to go and coordinate support with them. And youth-led projects, they have grant making programs. They're able to learn how to write grants within the city, and that's really great because we want to be able to get resources into our community. We want that program support, we want that evaluation. And youth empowerment programs, because our youth, really, we have a lot of things to say. We are empowered. We need the city to realize that too. We need to realize that, hey, our young people are speaking, let's listen to them. But really, what does this mean? Lucy, can you switch to the next slide? We saw all these great programs. We're seeing that, hey, other cities are doing it. LA, we can do this. So what are the key takeaways with that? Well, a city structure like San Francisco and New York, they prioritize youth needs for policymakers. The city council members in the city are working constantly with their youth, and they're bridging gaps between schools, community organizations, and any other environment that helps our young people. You're having access and outreach with portals for youth to go in, plugging in to the services, and having all of these great, amazing programs where the young person is really supported. And you're building youth power within the city. You have city engagement initiatives where you're learning everything that it takes to create policy, to make advocacy. You have youth empowerment programs, you have mentorship. A city, I would definitely love to be like, hey, you know what, go to this counselor and be like, hey, I want to learn, I want to have your job when I'm older, so how can I do this? Mentorship within each other, skill building opportunities to really make sure that we're getting everything that we need. And sometimes it isn't that we don't understand policy, it isn't that we don't necessarily know what it takes to do certain policies, it's just that we don't have the access to it. So having these departments really creates that access. And the youth say, they're actually able to have a say in the budget, with the youth participating budget, the youth program initiatives, and youth decision-making bodies. So we're seeing that not only is a department doable, but decision making. We can do it, LA. I know we have everything it takes. So let's get it done, and let's continue to the next slide if we can. I don't know if it's all right. So, within that city, we're saying that, hey, it's definitely doable. So in LA, what problems do we need to address for this to happen? We need to be able to change the policy that sees youth as the problem. You have a lot of policies that are saying, hey, you know what, in order to get this service, you have to go X, Y, and Z. You're trying to fix a youth instead of empowering them. We want to change those negative language and negative stereotypes that are applied to youth within the names of certain programs to really empower our youth, see us as positive, see us as leaders, because we really are them. And the city investing $20.3 million in gang reduction programs, that isn't really necessarily investing in youth development. You're investing in gang reduction, but in the name itself, you're already targeting our youth as, gang members. Maybe they aren't, but in order to receive that program, you're already being labeled as that. And then youth having a say in what we want. We see that youth definitely can have a say in that process. And youth don't know where to find the programs. Like we saw earlier in the survey, a lot of our youth didn't know where to get those services, and that's why they don't access city-funded programs. And having jobs provided by the city, they're not real jobs. We're seeing a lot of youth mentioning, hey, you know what, I got a job within the city and all they made me do was clean cars. All they made me do was file papers. The job I applied for was definitely not that. Why am I not getting those services? So we got to make sure that that's happening. And city departments not having coordination, like Cassandra said, it's being clustered in different spots. So we don't really know how to hold those programs who do get funding for youth development. We don't know how to hold them accountable and say, hey, did you really serve our young people? What is happening? And we don't have a budget, say in the budget, therefore, whatever is reflected within that budget, it's not reflecting our youth needs. We really want to be able to see a budget that reflects our needs, our view for the city of Los Angeles, because we're saying, hey, youth are the future. We are the now, we are the power that is going to lead change in the city. So let's make sure that that happens. And can we continue to the next slide? Please, thank you. again, highlighting our demands. Like Cassandra was saying, we want to establish that youth development department, hearing from different sources. June 2021, that seems like a possible option. We can definitely make that happen, especially with the task force now who's creating that recommendation for a department, ensuring that any programs that we're seeing actually reflect the needs of youth and wants. The city needs to conduct an assessment in order to make sure that, hey, everything that is happening is actually for our youth, by our youth, and developing a process for youth to be able to participate in that budget and process. Again, really highlighting that, and having youth investment. It's something that I really want to highlight for you. Youth investment is a smart public strategy for youth investment. Everyone wants to say, hey, I want to see my safe community. I want to see this. But if you're investing in your young people, you're making sure that that's happening. You're growing, you're helping our young people really make sure that that is the case. And we can use so many different funds in order to make sure that that happens. So let's make sure that we're investing in our young people. Let's make sure that we demonstrate our power, and that anything that we see in the future is youth-led, is youth power, and that we really continue this energy that we have into the future, into the now, creating those leaders. So with that, I'm gonna open it up, for the chat. If you all have questions within the chat, drop them. But I'm gonna pass it off to Lucy, who has something for us to do.
Yes, so that was awesome. I feel like we were able to learn a lot of amazing information. For me personally, it was great to reflect on all the amazing work we have done over the years. I have been part of the campaign since the beginning, and where we're at is amazing, and it just makes me so happy and so excited. So next steps, we're gonna take a 3-minute break because we had a lot of information. So we wanna use this time to fill out the youth survey if you haven't already. So what I'm gonna be doing is dropping the link for the youth survey on the chat. And yes, so if you haven't filled out the survey yet, please do so, because your input is very, very important. And the results of the survey will be shared with the task force as mentioned. So let's take that 3-minute break. Can we have our DJ spin some jams?
I was broken, I was acting for good reason, lost all of my love. May still be aching, but I see the sun come up. Days overtaking, I feel I've overcome. I found my way back. I found my way back. Way back, 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 my way back. Yeah. No, no, no. I've been coping, it's been really rough. And I'm quoting, I have had enough. May still be aching, but I see the sun come up. Days overtaking, I feel I've overcome. Oh, I found my way back. I found my way back. Yeah, yeah. Way I was broken, I was acting
Love electricity, shockwave, sensual power on the motherboard, yes. Push up, overload, legendary, heavy glow, sunshine, thunder roll, keep this on. Yes, the lantern burn firm and easy, and broadcast so raw and easy. Thunder roll, sunshine, work it out, 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 out.
oh starlight, go blossom in your soul. When you know your heart is light, electric is the love. When the mako fly up from the bottom in your eyes, then I know the twilight sky, not so broken heart.
If it's love, it's electric. It'll be flowing on the street, night after night, just to get through the week. Sometimes it's hard.
All right, y'all. I hope you were jamming out just as much as I was. Shout out to our amazing DJ. So next up, we have a raffle. So definitely we want to appreciate you all for being here, being present, staying active in the chat. So we are going to have one of our youth organizers share their screen so that we can do a raffle.
All right, y'all, just inputting the last names. This has to be done manually, so give me a second. We'll make sure to make that raffle happen. No worries, y'all are gonna win something.
Thank you,
All right.
Cassandra. And thank you for handling all of our tech. Cassandra is awesome for handling this. We have over 100 participants and they are inputting names manually. So shout out to Cassandra. And yes, the raffle queen is back. I apologize, I don't have my background. My room doesn't allow it. But as you all can see, we have a wheel here. So we're gonna spin our wheel and see who our lucky winner is.
All right, y'all. So I input all the names. No worries if your name's not there. Presenters, I'm sorry, your name might or might not be in there because you know what? Y'all are presenting. We need to make sure the public wins. So I'm gonna go ahead and spin that wheel. Are y'all excited?
I am. Let's see who the lucky winner is. Maria Sarabia. Lupita has been part of this campaign for a while. So shout out to you. Please make sure to send me a DM with your contact information so that we can make sure to give you your raffle. And you know what? I'm feeling excited. So can we do one more raffle if that's possible? Let's do it.
Of course. All right, I'm gonna spin the wheel one more time. We removed Maria, Lupita.
All right, let's see. Amanda Gutierrez. So woo, shout out to Amanda. Please DM me with your contact information and I'll to claim your prize. So awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and transition. So I actually just got word that Councilmember Kevin De Leon is in the house. So woo! Shout out to my Councilmember Kevin De Leon.
All right.
So Councilmember, if it's okay with you, do you mind introducing yourself and your
Sure.
commitment to the young people?
Okay, absolutely. Hi, how you doing, Lucy? Muy buenas noches a cada uno de ustedes. Saludos, un abrazo muy fuerte. I'm gonna put it back as I'm seeing my ugly face on the my whole iPad. I'd rather see all of you than myself right there. But it's an honor to be here with you. I'm sorry I'm a little late. I just finished. This is my 10th Zoom thing today. Since 7:30 in the morning, I started off in Boyle Heights, and I still got another Zoom right after you guys. So I'm not done. I still got another one. But I'll cut to the chase. Listen, a couple things. One is, as we all know, the coronavirus is impacting people of color more than anybody else. And in LA County, of those who are being infected, it's 140,000 Latinos. The second cohort group after Latinos is roughly about 40,000. And those are whites, then it's Asian Americans, and then African Americans. Those are real numbers, aggregate for all of LA County. So when we come to the city of LA, which is 50% Latino, communities like Boyle Heights and communities outside of CD14, like Pico Union, MacArthur Park, whether you're from Pacoima or elsewhere, or El Sereno, those are hot spots. And why it's impacting our communities even more so disproportionately than any other community is, number one, because of poverty. Number two, because we have intergenerations, multi-generations under one roof. Los abuelos or la abuela, los padres, hijos. Why? Also, too, we're essential workers. Also, too, a lot of us don't have access to quality health care. Not whether it's Blue Cross, Blue Shield, an HMO or PPO. A lot of our healthcare is driven by County USC Medical Center. It's the emergency room. Or it's una clínica, Clínica Oscar Romero, or one of the clinics that we go to in our community. Whether it doesn't make a difference where you live, South LA, in the Valley, if you live in Boyle Heights or elsewhere. And that's why it's having disproportionate impact, because a lot of our families have been in modern day soup kitchen lines of akin to 1929 of the Great Depression, standing in lines for hours to get box of food. And now, with the eviction moratorium that's looming on the horizon, which is January 31st of next year, less than 2 months, if that eviction moratorium expires, that means that we'll have a lot of working families, our families, living on the streets, in the cars, or on someone's couch, if we're so lucky. Now, this is all the conditions before, these are the conditions we're living in today. But prior to COVID-19, for our youth, let's be quite upfront, because I've been very consistent on this message before I ran for CD14, that for a lot of our youth, the pathway, not all, but statistically speaking, the pathway has been to, Vacaville, Soledad, Corcoran, it has been San Quentin, it's been Pelican Bay, as opposed to Cal State LA, as opposed to CSUN, as opposed to Cal or UCLA. And how we break that school to prison pipeline and disrupt it altogether, destroy it altogether, to give all of our youth of color, Latinos, African Americans, Asian Americans, poor white, students, an opportunity to succeed. And that's why I want to be very clear with regards to creating a new department, right, that deals and invests in youth. And speaking with Luca Lanche, for about 2 years ago, and I told her, I'm down, put me down, I'm down 100%. I just want to express my solidarity to each and every one of you. I see my colleague here, from the Valley, Bob Blumenfield, who's a great advocate, himself. We work together, we served together time in the assembly, and I can tell you that he has been a great advocate, and it continues to be a great advocate for youth. And also Monica, I'm just saying Monica as well too, being in the Valley, You know, Monica has an amazing story herself, you know, and I love her story and what it means to empower and improve the human condition for all individuals, regardless of who you are, regardless of where you come from, regardless of the color of your skin, who you love, or which God you pray to. At the end of the day, it's how do we provide real opportunities for success for all of our youth in particular. And given the fact that we have so many young people of color, and ultimately, when it comes to the future, you will be occupying positions of power and making those decisions at the local level, at the county level, at the state and federal level. And having a voice, the voice of youth will absolutely be very, very critical. Because quite frankly, we don't have that. That's the bottom line. At any other level of government, we don't have that. You know, we'll get folks who will come to us and we'll talk about criminal justice reform. We'll get folks who will come to us and we'll talk about environmental injustice and the fact why we have so many freeways. What can we do to reduce el alto índice alarmante y peligroso de carbono y otros tipos de contaminantes, ¿no? Que respiramos en nuestros pulmones. You know, why don't we have enough parks and open space? Those are the issues that impact the human condition for all individuals. And that's why I'm down. Let me say one last thing too. On criminal justice reform, on the issue of DACA and Dreamers, on the issue of environmental injustice, and the fact I'm seeing more trees in our communities. Something as simple as trees. I want you to think about it. Because I grew up in a neighborhood very similar to Boyle Heights. I grew up in Logan Heights, you know, in San Diego. I grew up in Tijuana and Logan Heights. But something as simple as trees that provide green shade, canopy. That's something that Bob is a huge champion of, as well as Monica. People in positions of political power, elected and non-elected, made decisions. Where we're going to plant trees and where we're not going to plant trees. Where we're going to have parks and open space and where are we not going to have parks and open space. Where we're going to have cement, concrete, asphalt, and who gets nice open space. Where we're going to build freeways and where we're not going to build freeways. For those who are from Boyle Heights, I can tell you this. You know we have 5 major freeways that surround Boyle Heights. You have the 5 freeway, the 10 to 60, a little bit of the 101, and the 710 freeway. That's just Boyle Heights. And you have people who made political decisions. We're going to build freeways here. We're going to build freeways in South LA, but we're going to build parks in open space and trees over there. And those are subjective decisions. And when youth have a voice, it makes a difference. And that's why I just want to say to you, Lucy, and to my great colleagues like Monica Rodriguez and Bob Blumenfield, who I admire, respect, you know, tremendously. You know, I just want to add my voice in solidarity to each and every one of you, you know.
Thank you so much, council member.
Thank you so much. And it's great to hear your commitment to the young people and hopefully for the establishment of a youth development department for the city of LA.
Yes,
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here today and hearing the needs and wants of the young people. And thank you because you represent me, council members. So thank you again. So
where do you live, Lucy?
Huh?
¿Dónde vives?
In Boyle Heights, near the Ramona
okay.
area. Yes.
Oh, the Ramona Project, that's right. Did you go to Roosevelt High School?
No, I went to Lincoln High School.
You went to Lincoln High School. Okay, you're a tiger then. All right.
Yes. But I want to transition on because we are moving on to the most important aspect of this whole event. So we're going to be transitioning into breakout groups where our young people are going to get to discuss youth power and youth decision making. So every group will have a youth facilitator and an adult ally, and we might have some city representatives jumping into the groups as well. But before I hand it over to Cassandra to coordinate the breakout groups, I want to remind everyone that the information and the notes collected from these breakout groups will be shared with the Youth Development Task Force to influence how they finalize the blueprint for the creation of a youth development department and share that back to City Council. So for my young people, I want you to remember that you are the experts of your experience. You are the experts of what you need, of what you want. So remember that when we break out into these groups, there is no right or wrong answer. It is just what you experience as a young person. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Cassandra.
All right, everyone. So I have placed you all in breakout rooms. Everyone is go ahead and click that breakout room notification for me once you get it. If you did not get a breakout room or you get kicked out, don't worry, I'm gonna be here in this space to let you back in. So I'm opening all the breakout rooms. See you all when you come back.
All right, y'all. So folks are coming back. We have about 88 participants out of the 104 we started off with. So dope, dope. But yeah, let's begin with feedback. My conversation was with breakout room number 1. And Louis, start us off. Louis, you in the space? Louis, no? All right, maybe Kevin. Kevin, do you want to share back for our team?
Oh, sorry. Yes. So we discussed outreach and access. At first, outreach is how, me and Alexis connected on the fact that we found out from our all the people that we grow up with, whether it be our parents, uncles, aunts, that we founded nonprofits. They referred us to them like the Boys and Girls Clubs and the YMCA, and that's how we were able to, develop into the great people that we are today. So it's so important as well to outreach to the parents and stuff like that, not only to the youth as well. And going back to access, we have a youth from the San Fernando Valley area who has trouble connecting to the LA resources for LGBTQ folks. So how can we increase that access so he's able to come here more easily as well? Whether it be metro, bus cards, etc., maybe like Uber ride transportation grants. I'm not sure. There has to be more research about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Louis, for sharing back for breakout room 1. And yeah, for everyone in the space, please do me a favor. Go to interpretation, select the little globe, and please select either English or either Spanish. Please have one selection. Don't have it off, please. Please do that. And with that being said, breakout room number 2. Can you all please share back on youth power?
I was in group number 2, but I believe it was B who was also in it. She shared something really good. So B, would you like to go ahead and give feedback on our group and kind of go over what we discussed, if you don't mind?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. So the conversation we had was about outreach and asked about ways to kind of pull in more youth into these conversations and have that available to them. And one of the things that I really emphasized was compensating youth for their time, right? Because when it comes down to it, if I need to support my family and help them currently, I'm not going to be able to, or maybe I will, but I personally wouldn't be able to juggle that opportunity as well. And so that was kind of the conversation I brought forward in my experience as someone who identifies as Indigenous youth. I had volunteered working with the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health as a youth advisor, where they compensated me for my time. They also were able to network me with the resources outside of that group. So for me and my understanding, I wanted to highlight like that youth should be valued for their time, right? And in that sense, it helps in so many different aspects other than the physical. It helps in the mental. For me, it helped me value my voice and find my voice and appreciate that my presence was disturbing other people's business. So in that space, in that conversation, I just wanted to reiterate that. But thanks.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Oh, go for it, Jackie.
Yeah, basically going over what she just said again, reiterating, we basically just went over outreach. and how we can go ahead and reach the youth that also don't necessarily are looking for these programs, like we said, or don't have access to the stuff, the services we have, or we're fortunate enough to have, like, I guess, laptops, iPhones, social media. Like, what about the youth that can't reach the social media, you know? Council member, was it, yeah, Bob, he kind of stated too, like, reaching out to foster youth, how we can reach out to them, information on how to do that. So it was great. We had a great discussion in our group.
So thank you so much. And yeah, passing it over to breakout room number 3 with Macy. Can you all share back on the segment or conversation you had around budget?
Yeah, so they talked, like, you know, we mentioned a lot about like how we agree that youth should have like a say in how the budget works. How do we receive the money? How does it provide us? Like, how does it communicate with us as a community within youth, right? A lot in affecting like Latinos, people who don't really like, you know what's going on within our budget. Um, but we also talked about like, how do we get informed about these youth programs? How do we get informed that there is a youth help center out there for, you know, us? And we talked about like how that's a way of, we think about it like, you know, we're lost. So how do we get that information? We try to find people who can provide us within our counselors. How do our counselors help us as youth within smaller groups, within people who are interested in different jobs than just regular job paying, right? How do we focus on the LGBTQ community as youth? And what else? We talked about like more about the people who are homeless, you know, the people who don't have the internet access or Wi-Fi access. How do we provide them with information? And we came up with like, what if we mail them information? What if we find a better source for them to really receive information? We also talked about youth power. How do we get youth power? And I mentioned the fact that like, I did a couple of speeches for Monica Garcia within the college center. And for me, I gain youth power by realizing that I have a voice, I have a saying, I have power, I gain strength within all that information, being able to speak to other youth my age. So I think in my group, it was a lot about like, how do we provide us as youth? And it was really good.
I'm glad it was good, Skyland. Thank you so much for that in-depth insight. But continuing, and because of time, can breakout room number 4 go and share one key takeaway?
Hi, everybody. My name is Emmanuel from Casa 0101. I'm just going to do a quick takeaway. We actually didn't get all the way down to the last question, but one thing I was going to say is I think that nobody's really talked about yet is that gaming is a very big thing for youth right now, and that like AOC, Alexandria Cortez, for instance, she reaches out to young people and engages them through gaming. And so that could be something to look at now. So I'm going to pass it on back to you.
Thank you. Beautiful shout out to AOC. Love her. Yes, and sending it off to breakout room number 5. One key takeaway, please.
Okay, so sorry, just to speak on quickly. So we were the arts and culture, and we spoke a lot about not having access in like arts, like focus too much on education. So we were just talking about everyone's story and how everyone has some sort of art embedded in them, and how like we can't see, there's not a lot of resources for everyone to achieve, whether it be music education, dance education, drawing education, or any of that. So we were just talking about everyone's story and how what would they like to see the youth development department create for the arts and culture for other students and people in Los Angeles, especially youth.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And passing it over to breakout room 6 with one key takeaway, please.
So one of the things that we talked about, and it looks like we're all commonly repeating the same thing about marketing. First off, one of the things that we talked about is ensuring that the kids have social emotional behavior skills that will allow them to be able to speak up, participate, be engaged in whatever facility they're registered in or participating in. We think as adults we could decide for them, but they also have a voice. We also want to assure that the activities are intentional and with a purpose, and that kids are engaged and learning. Yes, put that up. I think that's important, and also establish a safe environment. Marketing, we talked a lot about that. It's important that we find a very strategic marketing tool and very specific things to be able to spread the word. A lot of families don't follow the departments or the programs of whatever programs we have for youth. How are they going to know what we offer? Kids don't follow necessarily the programs or the organization. So how are we getting the word out? And especially now, social media is such a powerful device. I think we should use that to our advantage and get the word out of all of these departments that we are going to have for our kids. It's such a powerful tool. Youth councils, I think, is important as well. We were talking about that. Having kids participating in youth councils and leadership skills program, so that kids have that leadership skill very much needed for them to speak up and have a voice, and use that as a valid point for them, and support youth with creating organizations of promoting their work, and be able to support them in that aspect.
Thank you, Sandra. And yes, intentional outreach is going to be key. They're going to be key. So
Yes.
Agreed. Passing it over to breakout room 7. One key takeaway, please.
I think Michelle may have dropped off, so I can just kind of give you all the quick and easy. So we had a large discussion about how community development should really be centered around youth and youth engagement, from looking at bringing in a youth representative into the city council, to ensuring that there's a youth advisory board and the transition and building of this youth development department, to making sure that we engage youth in budgetary decisions in the community, because they know best about their needs, and engaging them early enough will ensure that there's long-term engagement as adults and folks who are contributing to their communities. I know for the sake of time, I'll just keep it there, and I'll keep it brief, but there was a lot of hope and a lot of allyship in the conversation that we had, and a desire to look at reallocating other funding structures, such as the police department and other public safety systems, to make sure that we can make these things happen for the long term.
And yes, speak on allyship. Pierre sits on the task force. So shout out to Pierre for always repping the youth. And happy birthday, Pierre. Happy birthday. So passing it over to breakout room number 8. Key takeaways, please.
Yeah, so we talked about spaces where youth can have their voices heard. And we mentioned smaller like neighborhood councils that are youth led, because because there's so many neighborhoods in Los Angeles, and every single neighborhood has their things that people need work on. And we also mentioned spaces that are accessible to all youth, such as like parks, more counselors and mentorship, easier access for youth to learn financial literacy, work and job opportunities, and creating spaces to talk about food justice, such as community gardens. Yeah.
I hear you, Jacqueline. We hear you. And passing over to breakout room number 10. Key takeaways. Did we have a breakout room 10, Sochi? Annette?
Yeah. We actually recruited Chibuso to share.
Yeah. One of the main things we talked about is programs for youth, and also how to ensure power within the departments. And one of the main, or a few of the ideas we had was that maybe like within the department that there's some type of democracy where we vote on whatever they change. And also before that part, we would like have some type of open-ended survey where we put in the topics that we might want to change. And also programs that would help encourage students to attend college and like help pay off debt, because that's one of the main things that discourages them. And programs that alternate within the week. Those are the main things.
Thank you so much. And yeah, just to wrap up key takeaways, I truly do want to thank all the council members and their representatives for making time and attending and listening to us. But a special shout out to Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez and Councilman Blumenfield for really sticking through from the beginning to the end. They were here for the entire 2 hours. They got it. They're hearing us. And I hope everyone's taking notes. And I'm looking forward to following up with everyone in attendance to really see how can we begin to take action and deliver these demands that we're all really screaming for, because over 800,000 young people live in our city, y'all, and we really do need to start doing the bare minimum and supporting us to really reach our full potential, right? And with that being said, y'all, I think we're in, what's the word I'm looking for? We deserve a quick breather, right? So Lucy, support me with a quick breather so we could close off this amazing space.
All right, awesome. I'm gonna do this really quickly because I want to respect folks' time. But we talked about a lot today, y'all. A lot of amazing, great conversation. So what I want us to do, if you're willing and able, you could have your camera on, off, however you like. I would ask if folks can just please plant their legs on the ground. If you're sitting down, just try to connect and feel the ground. If you would like, you can also place your hands on your lap, or you can also put your one hand over your belly and one hand over your heart. And what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be inhaling through our nose and exhaling through our mouth. So inhaling for 3 seconds and then exhaling through our mouth. So we can begin. Inhale, exhale. One more time, a big inhale and an exhale. Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you all so much. But before we end today, I would love to hear a chant because we have so many amazing young people. So I'm actually gonna hand it back to you, Cassandra, so you can lead us in a closing chant if you don't mind.
You know what? I am down. But before I even do that, I'm going to ask for everyone's support. Everyone. Council members, facilitators, participants, young people, adult allies, unmute your mics. And it's okay if I hear the baby in the back. It's okay if I hear the dog, all right? I'm going to say youth, and you all are going to say power. Ready? 1, 2, 3, youth.
Power.
Hey, youth.
Power.
Power. 1, 2, 3, youth.
Power!
Now that's exactly what I'm talking about. Truly, thank you all for being part of this conversation, being part of this amazing transformative space. Once again, I want to highlight before we take the picture, right? I want to highlight that all the notes that we were taking in the breakout rooms are living documents. And when I say living documents, that everyone in this space is able to add to that document up until Monday, December 6th, I believe, up until 6 p.m. And what we mean by that is that after 6 p.m., we're going to close them. That's when we all, the Youth Advisory Board, we're going to start tagging. We're going to start analyzing that and then sending it over to the task force. And that's truly going to influence the blueprint. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And with that, I believe I am able to say have a blessed. Thank you all for this amazing conversation and enjoy your weekend, y'all. Get some rest. Go out. Thank you.
Thank you to the DJ.
Wear a mask. Wear a
Slim in
mask.
the house.
Wear your mask.
Truly, wear your mask.
And shout out to the youth. The youth are the future, y'all.
So here we are in the car, leaving traces of us down the boulevard. I wanna fall through the stars, getting lost in the dark is my favorite part. Let's count the ways we could make this last forever. Sunny, money, keep it funky, control, pop it, let it down. Yeah. like that, yeah.